It's time for the Wave Race Blue Storm review for the Gamecube. Blue Storm is the sequel to the N64 game Wave Race 64. I've never played that one, but I've always been curious about this game, so let's see how it turned out. This is of course a racer, where you race on lakes and other bodies of water using jet skis. In the beginning, the game forces you to play the exhibition mode, so you'll get the hang of how to control your jet ski. But before you play the exhibition mode, I highly recommend you complete the tutorial first, because you'll struggle a lot less with it. You get to choose from 8 different racers, each with their own different stats, such as top speed, acceleration, and handling. For beginners, it's probably best to start with a character who has a lot of handling skill rather than top speed. I've been playing this game for a while now, up until this review, and I still have trouble with any character whose handling skill is low. This is because the physics of the game environment are very realistic, to the point that it has a very low tolerance to any mistakes you might make. This is bittersweet. Bitter because the game has a pretty high learning curve, but sweet because of the fact that it's very realistic. The game is fun, don't get me wrong, but man, it can be pretty difficult. You'll definitely need a lot of patience and practice if you want to win races. There are 3 difficulty settings, normal, hard, and expert, and even playing on the easiest difficulty setting, it can still give you a great challenge, especially if you pick a character whose stats wouldn't be a good match for your playing preferences. Instead of racing anywhere you want in each level, you're required to pass 2 different colored buoys throughout the entire length of the course. You'll need to pass the yellow buoys on the left and the red buoys on the right. If you don't, you'll be reminded by your crew member to do so. If you miss 5 buoys within a race, you'll be disqualified and have to start the entire circuit over. Once you pass 5 buoys correctly consecutively, you'll be awarded with a turbo for your jet ski, which will make it go faster for a few seconds. However, if you pass a buoy incorrectly before you use your turbo, the turbo will disappear and you'll have to earn another one by passing another 5 buoys consecutively correctly again. Your crew member will give you advice and updates during the race which can be beneficial, although they can get a little annoying at times.
Get back up, come on! Pass the red buoys on the right, hello!
The weather can affect each race, either in your favor or not. Sometimes there will be large waves that you'll have to maneuver through, and other times it will be a peaceful day where steering is pretty easy. The weather changes really add to the strategy of each race, as you might come in first place during a calm day, but come in last on the next race just because you're not used to harsher weather. Each racing circuit has a different amount of races. Like in normal mode, there are only 5 races, but there are 6 for hard mode and 7 for expert mode. The thing is though, there aren't that many different levels. Like if you compare the first race of normal mode to the first race of hard mode, both levels are roughly the same. There are differences in the areas of where you can race through, but they're definitely similar enough. Some levels don't seem to change the layout too much, but will instead change up the weather, like putting in fog or severely increasing the wave height and rate. This was disappointing, as I would much rather have different levels than just manipulated repeated ones. The graphics look pretty good. I've read that people have complained about the lack of realism of how the game looks, but I don't think it looks bad. For a GameCube launch title, I think it did pretty well. The controls can be a little tricky to get used to. They work well overall, but steering could become frustrating pretty quickly. Now I don't know if that's due to the realistic physics of the water and environment, or if the controls are just demanding of the user, but either way, steering is still a chore sometimes, especially on levels where the waves are choppy. It's not only that, but the AI hardly ever seems to have problems with steering. Like I said before, this game has a high learning curve, and most of it, if not all of it, is due to the controls, especially the steering of the jet ski. But once you've practiced for a while and have gotten the hang of it, the game can become really fun. It's a nice change from road racing, as different elements are in play. The multiplayer is more fun than single player, as you and your friends all have to suffer the demanding controls. Some levels have jumps in them where you can perform tricks. It's a nice addition, but if you're like me, you probably won't be thinking of doing tricks that often, as your main focus is trying not to run into everything. In Stunt Mode, the goal is to rack up as many points as you can in one lap by performing various stunts and driving through rings scattered about. There are unlockables you can achieve by getting first place on each circuit, but it is really difficult to do, so if you're just dying for those extra goodies, you'll definitely need to practice and have a lot of patience. Wave Race Blue Storm is a good game. Good graphics, great environmental physics. Once you've practiced enough, the game can get really fun, multiplayer is fun, and the addition of tricks and stunts is a very cool feature. However, the difficulty is really high, even on the easiest setting. The controls, even though are precise, are pretty demanding, and the amount of different levels is kind of low, which was disappointing. Overall, though, it's still a fun game once you've gotten used to it. It's definitely not a pushover of a game, but if you have the patience for it, I think you'll be rewarded with a very fun racer. This game gets a 3.75 out of 5 with a title of awesome. Oh yes, and Merry Christmas.